Hi everyone, my name is Richard Santoro and I welcome you to Third and Zen, the YouTube channel where every week I'm sharing a spiritual message to nourish ourselves, heart, mind, body, and soul. First, thank you for stopping by the channel. Thanks for checking out today's video. I do hope that this video finds you doing well. I hope you're taking the time to care for yourself, heart, mind, body, and soul. And I hope we're also able to make the time, the energy, the effort, and the proactive love to care for each other as best as we can. Again, with that being said, I do thank you for being here. If you feel like supporting the channel by liking, subscribing, sharing, I would greatly appreciate it. But either way, thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. With all that being said, let's just take a moment. Let's just breathe. Enjoy the waves. Allow ourselves to just be still. Just be here. Just be in this moment. Take a few deep breaths. Signal to the brain to signal to the body. It's time to just rest. Just relax. Let's get started with today's message, shall we? So, as I was here this morning at the beach, nice and early, beautiful day, walking along the water, just breathing and looking at the water and being so close to the water, I was reminded of how water plays such an integral, vital, and beautiful part of Scripture, be it either Hebrew Scripture in the Old Testament or the New Testament or Jesus' life and ministry and theology and active being. Water was such an important and big part of it, from the water being placed on the tabernacle on the altar during the Feast of Tabernacles, to Jesus walking on water, to the part of Scripture that I thought of really deeply and profoundly, and that's in the Gospel of John. During the John's Gospel, let me just say this. John's Gospel, unlike the three synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, where those three Gospels have the Last Supper, the Lord's Supper, it's just like a paragraph. Just a, one and done, not to minimize it like that, but, a brief paragraph of what took place, the bread, the wine, the blessing, the body and the blood. John's Gospel makes it several chapters. John's Gospel expands on it greatly and in beautiful detail, theological and symbolic detail. And in one moment that starts it actually is the moment, and here's where I'm going with the water, where Jesus washes the disciples' feet. And that's what I was thinking of. And let's talk about that briefly for a moment. What happens is, at this meal, Jesus tells the disciples, he takes off his loincloth, he takes off his cloak, and he's just wearing his loincloth, and he gets down on his knees and he says, I'm going to wash all of your feet. Now, a couple of things about that. For one, washing a person's feet was obviously then, as much as it is now, not an ideal task. People's feet, especially back then when you're wearing sandals and in the dirt, were really dirty. And it was a thing that even by law, you couldn't make a slave wash a person's feet. So for Jesus to lower himself beneath a slave, to wash the feet of his students, his disciples, his followers, was a big deal symbolically and a big deal in terms of love. I'm going to lower myself to that state. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So Jesus says this to the disciples, and then Peter, God bless Peter. Good old Peter steps up and says, no, you're not washing our feet. We wash your feet. No, you can't wash my feet. And Jesus is like, no, dude, come on. No. Unless you let me do this, there's no part of you with me. You got to let me do this. And obviously, I'm clearly paraphrasing. Jesus didn't say dude and all that stuff. But what Jesus does is he course corrects him and says, no, you got to let me do this for all of you. That's how it's going to be done. So, good morning. How you doing? So Jesus says, no, you have to let me wash your feet. He course corrects Peter and he says, no, you have to let me wash your feet. That's how this is going to work. Now, that's some context and some background to one of the greatest stories, in my opinion, in Scripture, in the Gospels, in the New Testament, in Jesus' ministry, this moment of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. Now, when I hear this story, when I think of this story, when I'm walking by the water, when he leads us beside clear shores. When I think of this story, it's Peter that I relate to most. It's always been Peter that I relate to most, and here is why. Yes, I did a sermon recently on Peter and his brashness, his impulsiveness, his emotionally led mouth. But what I relate to in this moment is, how do I best phrase this? I personally relate to this moment in that I find it difficult at times to allow others to do for me. I find it difficult at times to let others love me in such a caring and empathetic and tending to type of way. And I think that I'm not alone in that. I think that many of us, whether it's because of self-sufficiency or independence, or because of a long track record of having to fend for ourselves, or perhaps traumas in our life, perhaps things in our youth and our upbringing, or things in our adult years where we have found it hard to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to let others love us in that way, to let others care for us in that way. I know that I'm the kind of person that deflects all the time. I'm a very private person. I'm a very guarded person. I'm what we would call an ambivert, if I'm pronouncing that right, an ambivert, not an extrovert, not an introvert, a little bit of both. You know, I'm good in social settings. I am abundantly friendly and outgoing and can talk about any and every subject, but I'm also really sneaky about it. And people that know me know it. I'm really guarded about it. When I'm in social settings, when I was at church and we go to coffee hour, or just at social gatherings, I can be really good, but I mask it in that, how are you? Tell me about yourself, all about you. But when it comes to me, no, all right, no, I'm like a rodeo clown, diverting the attention to other people and not wanting to talk about myself, not wanting to delve deeper, And when I led the youth group for so many years, there were a few youth that knew me really well. Now, obviously, in youth group settings and in church settings, part of my ministry, part of my function, part of how I was to care for other people. And how are you? And there were always a couple that knew. I'd ask, how are you? And they'd be good, but how are you, Rich? And they knew to press me because they knew that I would really, really turn away verbally and turn it back towards them and deflect back towards them. And they knew, don't let me get away with that, because they cared enough to want to know. And that was because, again, going back to the fact that there's a lot to me that, like Peter in that moment, will say, no, you don't wash my feet, I wash your feet. You don't minister and love me, I minister and love you. And part of that for a lot of us, a lot of people, is that we don't allow, or we don't let, or we're not able to, on some level, let people love us and care for us in that deep, profound, caring way. We're used to doing it ourselves, maybe, or we're scared to let others do it, or whatever the reason is. And maybe I'm talking about this, and you're thinking about it, saying, I know what Rich is saying. I sort of can be like that too for reasons X, Y, and Z. Or perhaps you're thinking, no, I'm not of that ilk. Now, here's the fruit for us in that. I'm not just going to just point it out and describe it, but if we are of the mind that is like me and that at times struggles to allow people to actively love us and actively care for us, and we are more apt to want to do it for ourselves, I'm here to say, let people love us. Ask for help. Let people care for us. Let people do for us. Let people have that gift of giving, of being there for us. It's a beautiful gift to let people do that. And, I always open these videos and I frequently try to remind us that we are worthy of love, care, attention, heart, mind, body, and soul from ourselves and from others. And I remind us of that right now in this moment, because like Peter, we say no, no, no. Sometimes we're not worthy, or no, no, no. I'm more comfortable doing and not receiving. So I'm here to let us know as a reminder, hey, let's let people love us. Let's let people care for us. Let's remember Jesus saying, no, let me wash your feet. Let me care for you. So that's point number one. Point number two out of 3 points I'm going to make here. If we were of the mindset that maybe we didn't really connect on the Peter level, on the level that I connect with, that no, we allow, maybe this is a reminder for some of us that it's a struggle for people, for other people to accept love. It's a struggle for other people to accept care. It's a struggle for other people to ask for help, to seek help. So maybe we're a little proactive. Maybe we go a step further and say, how are you? How's it going? What can I do for you? Oh, I'm fine, I'm good. How are you? No, I'm good. How are you? Talk to me, what's going on? We don't want to obviously press people beyond their comfort level, of course, and we don't want to smother, of course, but just a reminder, just something to be mindful of, that sometimes people need a little bit of proactive, let me care for you. Let me tend to your needs a little bit, because maybe you need a little fellowship in this moment. So that's point number 3, a reminder for us to be mindful of that. And the last point, of course, is a reminder that there's always Jesus. That's what Jesus does. He cares for us. He lowers himself. God made flesh in the form of Jesus, lowers God's self to our level, meets us where we are, right down there, gets dirty with us, will wash our feet, will tend to our wounds, will care for our needs, will say, no, let me care for you. I love you so much that I'm going to lower myself to care for you, to wash your feet. No, it's okay. It's okay. And that's a beautiful reminder, that moment in John's Gospel of Jesus lowering himself to wash all of his disciples' feet, from the reluctant Peter all the way down to the Judas, who he knew on some level was going to betray him. Yeah, he washed Judas's feet too. So, Jesus is going to do that for us, and we can allow people to do that for us, and we can do that for others. Lowering ourselves, being there, being proactive, allowing others to love us and care for us. So as I sit here beside still waters, I'm reminded of that moment, and I'm reminded of Peter blocking Jesus from loving him and saying, Jesus saying, no, let me love you, let me care for you. And in this moment, I'm reminded that, yeah, we are all worthy of love, and it's okay to allow people to love us, care for us, tend to us. And in return, we can do our best to be mindful to care for others, to lower ourselves to be there on the same level where people need us. Thanks be to God. Amen. Okay, my friends, again, I want to thank you for stopping by the channel. I want to thank you for checking out the video. I hope in some way, shape, or form you found it fruitful. If you find yourself in a moment where you are in need of love and for whatever reason aren't receiving it or aren't seeking it out, I hope that this video reminded you that you are indeed worthy of love, and sometimes we do need to say, yes, please, give me a hand. I need some love. So if that's you in this moment, I pray for you, and I hope that you do remember you are worthy of love. And as the great Jim Valvano said, don't give up. Don't ever give up. Thanks be to God. I love you all. Have a great day. Ciao, ciao. Love you. Peace.